Family, a very emotional moment in your life with Zayda.
I was born when my father was 47 years old. You should know the difference is that in my life, when I was 47, I already had 6 children and 1 grandchild. But I was born when my father was 47. And my father came from a traditional but not really religious family. When he married my mother, and I was the youngest of 3 children, I was family and in my father's family who went to the yeshiva. None of my cousins went to yeshiva. And it was hard financially. Yeshiva cost a lot of money. Public schools are free. And even though it was hard, they decided to send us to yeshiva. And one of the ways that my father was able to afford it was that he worked on Shabbat. He had a job during the week from Monday through Friday in Manhattan, but on Shabbat he worked. Shabbat and Sunday he worked in a hardware store, and he did that for extra money so he could pay for yeshiva bills. And even though halachically that's not an acceptable thing to do, he felt he didn't have a Jewish education. My mother had more of a Jewish education than he did, but he felt justified by doing it, the fact that at least his kids will have a Jewish education. We went to yeshiva, my sister, my brother, and I. All 3 of us are religious today. My sister lives in Yerushalayim. Baruch Hashem, my brother is a rabbi and has smicha from a big yeshiva in Baltimore. I am religious, as you see. So the plan worked, but wasn't achieved, of course, in the best way. In any case, here's the story. My father was president of the shul in our community for many years. We did not grow up in a religious community. I grew up in a place called a town called Middle Village, Queens, which was mostly Italian. We had 2 shuls, then it was merged to 1 shul, and even that shul we could barely get a minyan. And my father was the president for many years, and on Shabbat, after shul, we're sitting having lunch, and my father used to eat a very quick lunch. He would make kiddush, and 10 minutes, 15 minutes into lunch, he'd have to go and take the bus to work. But we were used to it. Now, my father was never late to anything in his life, ever. One Shabbos, he's sitting there, we're all sitting around, my brother, sister, and I, and my parents sitting there, and my father is taking his time. He usually would rush his way through lunch, because as I told you, 15 minutes into lunch, he'd have to already leave, go to work. He's sitting eating slowly, and my mother says, his name was Harold. Harold, you have to go to work. He looks at his watch, he says, yeah, another few minutes. Okay, we're eating. And he's not going anywhere. My mother finally says, Harold, you're going to miss the bus. He says, no, Ruth. That's my mother saying, Ruth, fine, another few minutes. Very strange. My father never said this. And, okay, but nobody thought of anything of it. We continue eating, singing some Zemira. And finally my mother says, Harold, you're going to be late for work. You're never late for work. You got to go. And then he put his fork down, and he looked at my mother, he looked at us, and he said, I quit my job. And we said, what? He said, yeah, last Shabbat, I told my boss, I quit. And she said, why? My mother said, why? He says, I realized I'm sending my kids to yeshiva. I'm the president of the shul. We have a religious home. How can I work on Shabbat? That's against everything that Judaism is all about. I cannot work on Shabbat. And I quit. And he kept his job during the week, but the Shabbat job, he quit. And my mother asked him and said to him, Harold, how are we going to pay for the yeshiva? And he looked at her and said, if Hashem wants my kids to go to yeshiva, He'll help me during the week with other ways to make money. And he never worked again on Shabbat for the rest of his life. We were Shomer Shabbat, 100% forever. And that was the greatest Shabbat meal I ever had in my life. I'll never forget that Shabbat. And every Jewish family should experience the real joy that we had on that Shabbat.